Lonsdale, Point Lonsdale. This is the Rainbow Star. How do you read me?
Rainbow Star, this is Point Lonsdale. I'll read you loud and clear. Over.
Point Lonsdale, please advise whether the pilot will board me on arrival. My ETA is 0800 hours.
Roger, Rainbow Star. Good morning. Your pilot is booked for 0800 and will board you on arrival. Over.
Thank you, Point Lonsdale, standing by.
Shipping's a highly technical business. If you look at a ship, it's a whole bunch of steel bits and pieces welded together that manages to find itself from one side of the world to the other through some of the wildest weather sometimes that there is. In order to do that, it employs electronics, it employs highly skilled people. We're in the business of shipping ourselves, and we want to make absolutely certain that whatever technical developments there are that are available to help us, to help the ships to get through to Geelong, to help Geelong to continue to be the Victoria's second port, to make absolutely certain that it's as risk-free as possible, then we'll do that. Starting from the point of view that we were to replace all of the beacons, means that we had a chance to be innovative. We had a chance to generate a design that was the world's best practice at first, at least. But we felt that we had a chance to create something that would maximise Geelong's advantage in terms of channel access, at least. We developed the design ourselves in conjunction with some engineering colleagues, and we also made sure that all of the major stakeholders in the port, that's people like Shell, GrainCorp, Geelong Port, Incitec Pivot, we made sure that they were all involved. The major stakeholders for us, of course, are the Port Phillip Sea pilots. They're the people who guide the ships in through the channel. In effect, if you like, they are the major users of the channel. The ships themselves need the channel for access, but without the pilots, they wouldn't be able to get in.
The role of the pilot in any port is to work as basically a risk manager as part of the team on the bridge of a ship when the ship's coming into confined waters. So we provide expert local knowledge of the channels and the nature of the tides, and also specialist ship handling knowledge. The entrance of Port Phillip's recognised as one of the more hazardous port entrances in the world because the entrance is actually the bed of the old Yarra River. The biggest problem is that the water doesn't run straight in and out of the entrance, but because of the shape of the entrance, it does a U-turn. So at one point in time, you can have the tide pushing the bow of the ship one way, the stern of the ship another way, at the same time as you've got all this turbulence around the ship. So you've got to keep the speeds up so that it's safe to come in through the entrance. When the VRCA decided to improve the channel lighting and the navigation marks, they consulted us as the main channel users.
To give you a feel for how big one of those ships is, in total length it's about 24 metres shorter than the Eureka Tower in Melbourne. Now that's a big ship. It's a big steel entity that has to negotiate these channels to get in. And the channels themselves, 15 nautical miles long or thereabouts. It takes 2 to 3 hours for a ship to get through the channels. If we didn't have markers in the channel, this would just be a featureless sheet of water on the way into Geelong. Now the channel itself is an artificially created channel. It's comparatively narrow, certainly compared with the length of the ship anyway. And the pilot needs all the clues and cues he can get to make sure that his ship stays slap bang in the middle of the channel and negotiates the various bends that we have in safety. So we decided that the most important thing we could do to help was to look at the beacons and the lights which give the pilots the cue, the clue that he needs to negotiate the channel. Our lights are made by a firm in Mornington Peninsula at Somerville called Sealite. They're, of course, solar controlled, solar powered these days, but they're also controlled by GPS satellites. When they switch on at night, they all talk to the satellites, then they have a conversation amongst themselves and settle down to a preset flash pattern. That flash pattern, the one we've set, the one that the pilots asked us to set, means that each part of the channel lights up a bit like an aircraft runway. For the sensitive lights, the lights, for example, at the start of the channel, the lights on the bends, The parts of the channel where the pilot really needs the best guidance, we can ring them up. We can just use an ordinary telephone. We can call the light and say, how are you feeling? And it can tell us, I'm feeling really well, the voltage is good and the current's good. Conversely, it can say, listen, I'm having a really bad time out here. You probably need to send somebody out and take a look at me. We see it as a way of making sure that Geelong can continue to compete, continue to remain as Victoria's second port. It's a major employer in the region. It pushes something like 10 million tonnes of cargo through the place. That cargo comes all the way from upcountry, from the farmers up in the Mallee, or at least it would if it was raining. And it goes all the way out to places as far afield as Taiwan and the Arabian Gulf. In the hurly-burly of shipping, it's really important not to forget another bunch of stakeholders that we have in the port, and that's the small boat fraternity, whether they are yachtsmen or whether they're fishermen or just people out for a day with the family. Then the last thing you need is not to know where you are. You really do need to know your position in the channel. And we think that this is a significant commitment on our part, a government authority, to an investment in infrastructure in our region.